Ignoring gossip doesn't make you noble, but it also doesn't automatically make you weak. The real danger isn't silence itself, it's unconscious silence. Most people stay quiet during gossip because they think they're being polite, mature, or above the drama. And sometimes that's true. But in many real-world social environments, office, friends groups, families, repeated silence sends a very different message. Not to kind people, to opportunistic people. What it often communicates is, I'm safe to unload on. And once that label sticks, it's hard to remove. The good news is this. Stopping gossip doesn't require confrontation. It doesn't require lectures. And it definitely doesn't require awkward moral speech that kill the mood. High trust, high respect people use something else entirely. Subtle psychological switches that quietly redirect toxic energy without making enemies. Today, I'm going to show you 4 psychological backed strategies used by emotionally intelligent leaders to shut down gossip without tension. Plus, one overlooked habit that protects your reputation long after the conversation ends. Listen closely, because this isn't about being nice, it's about being respected. Gossip didn't start as a moral failure. Anthropologists believe it originally evolved as a way to share social information, warn others about unreliable behavior, strengthen group bonds. In small tribes, it served survival. But modern gossip works differently. Instead of protecting the group, it often creates invisible alliances. And that's where the danger begins. Psychologists call this triangulation. It happens when someone pulls you into a private narrative about a third person, subtly positioning you as the trusted one, the insider, the ally. It feels flattering, it feels intimate, and that's exactly why it works. But here is the uncomfortable truth most people don't realize until too late. If someone regularly bonds with you by criticizing others, they're practicing a pattern, not confident, a secret. That pattern doesn't stop with you. This doesn't mean everyone who gossips is malicious. Often it's insecurity, boredom, or stress. But regardless of intent, repeated exposure puts your reputation at risk. Not because you spoke, but because you were present. Silence, when repeated, can be interpreted as consent. So the goal isn't to fight gossip. It's to opt out of the emotional contract without creating friction. Most people's first instinct is honesty. They hear a rumor and say something like, "That's not true. You shouldn't talk about people like that. That feels unfair." It sounds reasonable, but socially it often fails. Why? Because of a phenomenon known as the backfire effect. When people feel morally corrected, especially in a casual or social setting, they don't usually self-reflect. They defend, they justify, they reframe. Suddenly, you become too serious, judgmental, sometimes who can't take a joke. And the gossip doesn't stop, it simply moves underground. High-status individuals understand something crucial. Power isn't about correcting behavior, it's about not feeding dysfunction dynamics. So instead of confronting gossip head-on, they disengage from its emotional engine. Let's talk about how. Imagine this. A co-worker leaves on and says, "Did you hear about stealers from accounting?" This is a moment most people mishandle. They freeze. They laugh politely. They nod. That small reaction, even a neutral one, often keeps the door open. Instead, try this. Look calm. Sound genuine. And say, "Really? Stella's been great with me." That's it. No defense, no accusation, no lecture. Why this work? Gossip requires agreement or emotional alignment to continue. When you respond with grounded kindness, you introduce cognitive dissonance. The brain doesn't know where to go next. You didn't reject them, but you didn't join them either. You quietly shifted the tone. This is not weakness. It's composure. And composure reads as confidence. Sometimes kindness isn't enough. The person doubles down. "Well, maybe, but I heard she's actually really difficult behind the scenes." Now you're being invited again to choose a side. This is where most people either over-explain, defend too hard, go silent again. Instead, you apply neutral framing. You say, "Could be," 2 words, calm down. That's it. This works because gossip thrives on emotional payoff, agreement, shock, outrage. Neutrally removes the reward. Psychologically, you're refusing to co-create the story. You're not denying it. You're not endorsing it. You're simply not investing. And when there is no emotional return, most gossip naturally loses momentum. Here is where many people make a mistake. They neutralize the gossip and then panic. They feel the awkward pause and rush to fill it, often dragging themselves back into the same dynamic. Instead, use intentional redirection. This is a skill used by diplomats and skilled negotiators. Here is how it works. First, use a brief phrase. "Anyway, ow, that actually reminds me." Then shift focus to them, but on a neutral topic. How's your team handling the new workload? You didn't shut them down. You didn't embarrass them. You simply changed the channel. This keeps social harmony intact while quietly repositioning you as someone who doesn't linger in negativity. That's status. In group setting, gossip can escalate quickly. Silence here can feel heavy. Confrontation can feel risky. This is where light humor becomes powerful. Not sarcasm, not mockery, just gentle perspective. For example, "Wow, this is starting to sound like a Netflix drama. I'm losing track of the plot." This does something important. It releases tension, signals awareness, breaks emotional intensity. Laughter resets group dynamics. And the person who triggers that reset is often perceived as socially intelligent, not passive. Now let's talk about a harder case. The person who always gossips. They don't want connection. They want reaction. This is where the gray rock method becomes useful. When they drop a dramatic statement, respond with, "Oh, really?" Flat tone, no curiosity. You're not being rude. You're being boring, intentionally. Without emotional feedback, gossip loses its fuel. If they persist, escalate gently but clearly. "I'm actually trying to keep my mental space clean lately. Can we talk about something else?" Yes, it may feel awkward. That's okay. Awkwardness often resets unhealthy patterns faster than politeness ever could. Here is the part almost no one talks about. What you do after the conversation matters just as much as what you say during it. Many people went afterward. You won't believe what they said. It was so uncomfortable. And unintentionally, they repeat the same triangulation pattern. High respect individuals do the opposite. They let it end. No reply, no storytelling, no emotional recycling. Why? Because reputation isn't built by one moment, it's built by patterns. And the patterns of someone who doesn't carry stories forward is rare, and rare is respected. Gossip was never really about the person being discussed. It was about emotional regulation or the lack of it. You can't control what people say, but you can control whether their words land on you or pass through you. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be righteous. You just need to be intentional. In a noisy world, quiet composure stands out. And the person who constantly refuses to feed negativity without drama becomes someone others trust instinctively. That's real social power, and is built one calm response at a time.